So what this is a welcome to art with Mrs. Gary presentation. So in here we'll do the rules and procedures and things like that a little bit more in depth. So first, a little bit about me. I have been teaching in Strongsville. This is my 5th year, my first and my only job so far since I graduated college. I started my degree at Ohio State, and then I ended up coming back home, and I graduated from Kent State with a degree in fine arts and a minor in education. I have 3 kids. My daughter is 6, right here. Her name is Dylan. And I also have twin boys that are 3. And this is Emerson, and this is Wyatt. And then here's my family photo. Some important information. We're going to go over the class overview, the grading procedures, classroom procedures, rules and expectations, and consequences. Here's just a little bit of a board over by my door with the rules and then some quotes and inspirational things. It also has the hall pass log and the tardy sheet, which I'll go over in a little bit. And then over in the other corner by the sinks, there's a sign over there that has pencils on it. That's where the pencil sharpener is. That's where you can go sharpen your pencils. And we're going to look around the rooms to see what these things are. So what will we be learning this year? We'll learn the elements of art, drawing, color theory, painting, sculpture, ceramics, and printmaking. What you need this year for art supplies would be number 2 pencils and erasers. We say number 2 pencils because mechanical pencils, they actually indent your paper, and it makes it really hard to erase the marks that mechanical pencils make when you draw. So number 2 pencils are the best, and large erasers because we'll be erasing a lot. And then your last name, if your last name begins with A through F, you're going to bring a roll of foil. G through K, you'll bring quart-size Ziploc baggies. L through P, you'll bring gallon-size Ziploc baggies. And Q through Z, we are asking that you bring tissues. The reason we ask you to bring these things is because we use them, the foil and the baggies, pretty frequently. And then tissues, we don't get the tissues that you guys supply your teams with. So if you're a cruiser and they asked you to bring tissues, we don't get any of that stuff. So we ask that you bring that in so that we have tissues to share also. And then we also ask that you bring a black Sharpie twin tip, so that has a regular, a fine tip and an ultra fine tip on one marker, or instead you can get 1 fine tip and 1 ultra or extra fine tip black Sharpie. And then for 6th grade only, you'll bring 2 empty cereal boxes. What is my grade based on? So your grades are based on projects, so mostly projects, all the projects that we do. Assessment activities, so we'll have some quizzes or matching things, so you know how to, say, work carving tools when we do printmaking. So we need to make sure you know how to use those things before we give them to you, so we make sure you're safe. Sketchbook activities, we do a ton of like mini projects and activities in your sketchbook that will be graded. Homework every once in a while. And then studio habits, so those are 100 points per quarter. And you start with 100. And as you maybe don't clean up after yourself, you come to class unprepared, you're not participating or getting your work done, you're out of your seat, or you don't clean up after yourself, we keep a log of this. And we'll write the date, your name, and what happened for you to lose points and how many points you lost that day. And we keep track of this per quarter. So you have 100 of those that you're given at the beginning of the quarter. So you don't want to lose them. Because that's an easy 100 points for just doing what you're supposed to be doing. So the way things work, you're going to arrive to class on time with a pencil and eraser. First period especially, we're being very strict. We need to make sure you're in the classroom by 7:55 when that last bell rings, or we're locking the doors and you have to go to the main office to get a tardy slip. You're going to sit in your assigned seats. If for whatever reason you don't have assigned seats, then obviously you're going to pick your own seats. But for the most part, everyone will have assigned seats for now, just so I can learn your names. If for whatever reason you are late after first period, so 2nd period and on, if you're late and you don't have a pass from another teacher, you will silently come in and sign the tardy sheet. So the tardy sheet is right by the door, and you'll put your name, what class period, and then the first time you're late, you'll put it under date 1. The second time you're late, you'll go back and find your name and you'll write it under date 2. And then the third time you're late, you go back and find your name and write the date under date number 3. It's very important that you do this silently so that you're not interrupting class when you're late. So when you come in and sit in your assigned seat, you'll read the daily agenda either on the chalkboard or the smart board, sometimes both. You'll listen to directions, a presentation or a demonstration from me most of the time. Ask questions if you have them, get your supplies out, and then get to work quickly and quietly. We want to make sure we're working hard for as long as possible. Your work will be stored in the class folders and the table folders. So the class folders are in a cupboard, and I'll show you where that's at. And it's labeled class folders, table folders, and supply bins. So on the top shelf in this cupboard, we'll have the 6th grade green days on the left and the white days on the right. And then on the bottom shelf, the shelf underneath here, we'll have year-long art, advanced art on the left, and semester 8th grade art on the right. I know this says 7th grade. I need to relabel it still, but advanced art will go here. The class folders and table folders look like this. So there will be your class period on a white folder, and that'll be a big folder for each class. So one white folder with the class period for the whole class, and that's your class folder. And then inside there, we'll have color-coded table folders. So we'll have one for table 1, for table 2, 3, 4, all the way up to table 8. And that will be numbered, and all of the table folders in your class will be the same color so that we don't get them mixed up. That's where we store all in-process work. So anything that we're working on, we put it in there so that we don't have to worry about you losing it before you come back to art the next day. Obviously, if something needs to go on the drying rack, then it won't go in the table folder if it's wet. Sketchbook storage. So over by the windows, I have labeled where the sketchbooks belong. So the bookshelf here is for 6th grade, and these crates and bins are for 8th grade, okay? So each class has a color of bin. So my 2nd period green day is going to be red bins. My 2nd period white day is yellow bins. My 8th grade advanced art is all these green bins. So that you know where your sketchbooks are supposed to be every day. They will always go in an assigned number bin. It will always go in the same place. And they're labeled. So this is my 1st period, my 5th period, 2nd, 6th, 6th. And this way we won't lose sketchbooks. They won't be forgotten in lockers. And we'll have a little bit more time in class to get things done since people won't need to leave or find their sketchbooks. Sketchbooks really should not leave the room, really for those reasons, because we don't want them to get lost. If there's a special circumstance, then we can talk individually, but for the most part, we want your sketchbooks to stay in the room. Table numbers and the supply table. So on the side of your table, you'll see a laminated number. So I'll refer to the tables a lot as their numbers. So tables 1 and 2, get up and get supplies. Tables 3 and 4, get up and get supplies. That way we don't have 32 people up and wandering around at the same time. So it's very important that you know your table number and for table folder purposes, so you know where your work belongs and you can easily find it. The supplies will go over here by the color wheel, and there's a sign that says supplies over here. It's in between the windows by the sketchbooks. Whatever supplies we need for the current project, they'll be out on this table. So you have one place to go get the supplies from and to return the supplies to. Other things you need to know, all books and backpacks belong on this shelf right inside the door. Like I said, you really should try to not bring a backpack because we really just don't have the storage for them. Drawstring bags are okay because they fit on this shelf because they're smaller, but we just don't have the storage for 32 backpacks. So if you bring a backpack, that's fine. It just can't go on this shelf. Just keep it under your table out of any aisles where people are walking so no one trips and gets hurt. But other than that, books, supply pouches, cinch sack bags, they all go on this shelf and not on your table. This orange bin will be at the bottom of this shelf, and that's where I'll put anything that's left in my room for lost and found. That's where you can find it. And then over here by my desk, you'll see a sign that says pencil sign out. And we have a clipboard here and then a little jar that's painted like pencils. I understand sometimes you forget a pencil or you lose your pencils. It's fine to borrow a pencil, but it has to be signed out. and returned at the end of class. So we know they're my pencils because they have these green duct tape flags on them and they're numbered. So you will put the date, your name, and what pencil you're borrowing when you borrow it. You just come up and do it. You don't even need to ask. But you do need to return that pencil at the end of class. So you'll bring it back, you'll cross out your name, and you'll put the pencil back in the jar so that I know you returned it. Okay, so we were talking about studio habit points and how you will lose points if you don't clean up after yourself. So it's very important that you know that you are absolutely expected to clean up after yourself. So I don't have time to clean up after 260 kids. It's not one person's responsibility in your class to clean up after everybody. Everybody helps make the mess, so everyone has to help clean it up. So you put your supplies away when you're done. You put your artwork back in the correct table folder or the drying rack, so you're not just throwing it in a random table folder and losing it because you don't want to find the right table folder. And then if you were painting or watercoloring or doing anything that made your table messy, you need to wash and dry your table with a sponge. And that is expected of everybody. So areas that are off limits, that would be behind my desk. So I have one little area in my room that is all mine, and that's behind my desk. So no students are allowed back there unless I give you permission to get something or sit at my desk for a reason. And then also the storage room. Between the two sinks, there's a door. It has a sign that says art room no-nos. And there's a stop sign there for a reason, because there's things in there that are not necessarily safe to have out in the classroom. So you don't go in there and go through the drawers. You don't get supplies out of there. And you also do not go in that room to cut through to Mrs. Gannum's room and disrupt her class. So we do not go in the storage room unless I'm taking you back there to store something in the kiln room or something like that. Classroom rules and expectations. So these are pretty easy. Be prompt, get to class on time, and get to work without wasting time. 43 minutes goes really fast. Be prepared. So bring a pencil, bring an eraser, and any homework to class with you. There will be very, very limited opportunities to go to your locker. Last year, we were letting people go to their lockers way too often, and we were wasting way too much time. So we're not going to be doing a lot of locker trips this year. Be respectful. So always treat your classmates, me, and yourself with respect. So you're not touching other people's property or their artwork. You're not using rude remarks or inappropriate language. You're not criticizing other people's artwork. That's a big one for me. That's never, ever okay. Okay. Be safe. So like I said, there's some things that are dangerous in my room. You make sure you're using all supplies as intended, or you're not touching things that are unsafe. So like my large paper cutter that's in my room that has a stop sign, you are not allowed to touch that. So make sure you're making safe choices. And then be positive. So work really hard and always do your personal best. So that doesn't mean that you're comparing yourself to the person that you sit next to. We're all capable of different things. So be positive in what you're accomplishing and what you're learning, and be proud of that. So consequences. We have a verbal warning. And what we do is we give you this little detention slip. It's a pink slip, and on the back it says warning. So we'll just we'll put this down on your table so that you see you're getting a warning, and you have a chance to correct your behavior. And then you'll get a loss of studio habit points if we don't feel like it's worth a detention. So we'll just deduct 5 points if you've been out of your seat or anything like that. Detention, warning, and detention. So once we've given you this warning, we flip this pink slip over and we fill out the detention, and we decide right then and there what time it will be and what date it will be. So then we put this into the computer and an email gets sent to your parents. So you are taking this home immediately, and your parents are getting notified immediately also of the detention and why you received the detention. An office referral, obviously, if whatever you do is bad enough, we'll just send you to the office. And if it's severe enough, you just go directly to the office. The tardy policy. So when you come in the door and you sign that tardy sheet, you get a detention after the third unexcused tardy in 1 quarter. So unexcused